We're actually at our official podcast studio, which Matt has generously donated for today. We're actually recording at Matthew's own home.
It's got Proclimer everywhere. It's like a walking Proclimer house.
I've never actually watched it, but there's a show on ABC called Grand Designs.
Yeah.
Weren't you on that?
Yeah. So kind of a big deal now.
Yeah, big deal. Today we are joined very special guest and someone who I've got to know very well over the last couple of years, and it's Bec Kempster.
Hamish's boss.
Yeah, I guess so.
You could look at it as Hamish is my boss too.
Yeah, no. Well, it's just, yeah. But Bec is our COO and has been for the last...
Who's our CEO?
SBA, Sustainable Builders Alliance, COO. And we've been wanting to get Bec on for a while, and I think today just the stars aligned. And I know you wanted to come and have a look at Matt's house as well.
I haven't given you a tour yet.
So we'll definitely do that. I was out here showing some of my clients through and made it very clear that Shoreham was far too far for Matt to travel. So they should still stick with Sanctum Homes as the builder.
Yeah.
But I must admit,
I did get a message from a client then.
I will go on the record of saying what I'm seeing here, even though I was being a bit of a dick before, saying there was like a couple of little defects here and there, it is pretty impressive. Like what you're seeing on TV is actually what you see in real life. So,
and you both got t-shirts on inside, and it's outside. It's 6 degrees right now.
And freezing.
It's 9:34 in the morning.
Freezing.
So can we get SBA? I want to just jump before I get to you, Bec. Directors, who are they?
So there's 6 of us. So there's myself. There is Jeremy Spencer from Positive Footprints, Simon from Sustainable Homes Melbourne. There is Michael Lim from Michael Lim Builders.
Brian
Guinan, who's our Perth correspondent. Did I say Jesse?
No.
Jesse from G-Lux, and myself.
And Bec, who's your favourite of all of them?
There's one more.
Nah, who's your favourite? That's
He's my favourite.
Yeah. So, okay, who gives you the most headaches?
Who gives me the most headaches? Probably the person that gives me the most joy as well.
Hamish.
I certainly make life interesting. My wife's been telling me that for the last...
If it's anything like this podcast, is it just
years?
millions and millions of ideas?
It's millions of ideas, but really great ideas.
Yeah, no, this is why we never get shit done.
But I think, look, I think what Bec, I know who I am. Like I'm ideas coming out of left, right, and centre. Like what you're really amazing, or what one of your biggest strengths is actually grabbing it and actually
putting it in the bin.
Putting some in the bin, but also grabbing it and actually turning them into something. Because like I've got 1,000 of these ideas. Today's event is one example. I knew in my heart that retrofitting was such an important topic for us to discuss and is going to play such a big role in like our goals for net zero moving forward. And I guess your ability to then put it into like a logical layout with me throwing a few other ideas in there is incredible. But so I speak on behalf of all the directors, we're really fortunate to have you on. But before we go down the SBA...
Turning it into something, because can I jump in here? You said you're turning into something. What have you, because you've been on 2 years now?
No, 18 months.
18 months.
Yeah.
2 years, 18 months is the same thing.
It's a lot you can do in 6 months.
So sitting from the back end, watching from the outside, I've seen huge growth, I'd say in specifically like the last 12 months. Like I would imagine the first few months have been just like working it out and then like, all right, now this is the plan forward.
I think the biggest shift has actually been the professionalism, like going from 6 directors all making decisions on the one topic to actually splitting up into departments, and then you, I guess, being the conduit between all of those different departments, and some of us sitting on multiple departments but not feeling the pressure on having to make all the decisions has been probably the biggest. Our ability to grow because it's more scalable, but 2, not feeling weighed down with all the other little decisions that don't necessarily impact me or if I'm being honest, things that don't necessarily interest me. And that's probably been the biggest opportunity for us to grow. Before we jump into SBA though, I want to hear a bit more about you, Bec. So take us back as far as you want to take us.
But Days of Our Lives, is that the TV? No, what's the old show that used to sit and they used to bring out all their friends from their childhood?
Oh, yeah, don't tell Bec. We've got someone waiting in the next,
Oh, do
next room. Yeah, Bec, to tell us who you are and your time before SBA. And then the reasons why, SBA then became something that was appealing to you.
Yeah, sure. So I have probably quite what you describe as a coloured career. I've done multiple different things. When I was at school, I was like heart intent on being a stockbroker. That was the vision. I was going to go off and study finance and commerce and be a stockbroker, and went off and did commerce at Melbourne University, and then realised that a lot of what you study is based on theory and that those theories aren't embedded in reality. For example, one of those core assumptions that's made in economics is that people behave rationally. So for me, I was like, okay.
Just look at the world right now.
Exactly. So that was probably the great undoing, but having a commerce degree certainly holds you in good stead when you go out into the marketplace and try and get jobs. So I finished that degree, went overseas, lived in Ireland for a while and had a great time over there.
Whereabouts in Ireland?
I was in Dublin.
Dublin.
So, travelled around Europe and did all that fun stuff that you do.
It's an interesting place to end up in. Most people go to like London or like Paris or New York.
Luce was in Ireland for a bit.
Really?
Yeah, she had a great time. Out not in Dublin, but sort of out more in the countryside. She said it was incredible.
Yeah, my
Wild,
boyfriend at the time had a passport, so he said, where do you want to go, Ireland or England? And I looked at the paperwork for both, and it was 4 pages for Ireland and it was like 10 pages for England. Yep. And I said, let's go to Ireland. So that's how we ended up there. Yep. And then, got offered an opportunity to go back there to continue working for a company I was working for that Web Reservations International, and they were doing something pretty new. They had a booking engine for booking hostels for backpackers. It was pretty exciting stuff. Ended up getting a job when I got back here in a nightclub, though, in Melbourne, and ended up... no, it wasn't Revolting. It was Billboard nightclub, actually.
Oh, Billboard.
That's the other one.
That's the other
one.
one.
Like a 50-50.
That's the other one, yeah.
So,
I've got some stories about Billboard.
Just
appropriate for this podcast.
What year were you there?
So it would have been probably 2003 to 2005.
So working backwards now from Hamish's age, he's probably lining up at the door while you're working there.
Probably was.
Yeah. No, 2003, I was overseas. But before that, and then after, when I got home, definitely. Yeah, definitely. Yep.
So did marketing and events for there, and then thought it was probably time to grow up a little bit. Went and got a job for a PR agency. Then got into retail fit-outs from there because I was doing a lot of retail fit-outs for Bonds and Sheridan and all the like, doing in-store concepts and things like that. Then decided to go and take that more seriously, got a job at Coles, and that was working on the head office fit-outs in there. So talking commercial
business. Your own business at one point? Was this before?
Did have my own business, yeah. So that was much later on. So
right, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
So retail fit-outs was, like at a 2000-ish, early-ish 2000.
Yeah, mid-2000s. It's something I've bounced around between marketing and retail fit-outs. Yep. So did a lot of digital work as well, and then got this opportunity after I had my daughter. Did a couple of different things. Had an association I was involved in, focused on emerging tech, which was pretty exciting. Got me pretty close to government, corporates, all that sort of thing. Learning some interesting stuff, and then opportunity came up to start my own or co-found a business, and that was around educating architects on how to run their business.
What was that called?
It was called Archibiz.
Archibiz.
Yeah.
Is that still around?
Yes, it is still around. I left in 2023 though.
So you're like a architect coach.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. Yeah. So we were looking at how to do that on scale.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. So maybe I'll let Matt ask that question because he doesn't mind annoying architects. I was about to say, like, how was that?
I think there's a lot that should sign up to it.
How was that taken up?
Look, the timing was around COVID, so it was kind of silver lining. I'm a silver lining person.
Probably the right time to do it, though.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. People were looking for help.
Yeah.
I guess I did question it. I co-founded the business with a business coach.
Yeah.
And we were looking at niching down into specialising in a particular industry, and he had a few architects as clients at the time. So we held a dinner with 8 architects, and the first question we asked, we never got to any of the other questions in the dinner. The first one was, what's the value of architecture? And no one at that table, none of the architects could answer that. And we went, okay, well,
This is a
here's an
whole
opportunity.
So builders are very open about getting coaching and help, and
This is where I was going.
Yeah,
I feel like,
so-
and maybe I'm in my bubble. So sorry to interrupt. In my bubble, I feel like everyone that I talk to as a builder is all about educating themselves. But I'm part of this podcast. I'm part of SBA. Like, interactions I have on social media, Future Builder. I'm surrounded by people wanting to better themselves all the time, and I don't. And I'm not saying it doesn't exist, but I don't see the same kind of uptake from the architect side of things. However, we seem to have a lot of architects come along to our SBA stuff, which was a market that we didn't see as like one of our tier one, target markets, but it's sort of almost becoming on par with
hold
the
that
builders.
thought with the market, because I want to get to that in the future.
Yeah.
But I do want to keep going with the architect for a second, because I just feel like there's only a small percentage of homes are designed by architects. Is that correct?
Yes.
It's like tiny.
Yes, it is.
And I feel so many people spend their time complaining about that figure, but not actively doing anything about it.
Yeah, yes and no. Like, I think there are some great people doing some amazing work pushing architecture out there and the importance of its role. And, look at what's going on with the architectural board here in Victoria and, the moves to try and wind them up and incorporate them elsewhere. So there is a bit of advocacy and some people with really, really loud voices trying to protect that going on, which is really important. I think maybe architects spend a lot of time investing in their education as far as, they spend so long at uni.
It's a good point.
And then it's really around the CPD side of things. And rather than spending that time working on their own business, it's around, more the compliance piece and more how to do architecture
It's a really
better.
good point, because I think builders are on the flip side of that, because we're...
Rule breakers.
Well, not necessarily, but I guess the normal pathway is finish school, maybe not even finish school, get straight into a trade, and you're on the tools learning. Yeah. And then you go, oh shit, I better educate myself. So that kind of comes a bit later, whereas architecture is more front loaded when it comes to 5-6 years of education.
Watch your hand in front of the camera.
So, I guess that does make sense in a way.
Yeah, and I think so you're a tradie, you're on site, you're typically around people who, not all walks of life, where I think I
just don't think it comes naturally. Like, if you look at someone who's attracted to being on site and working with the hands, I don't necessarily think that same person is comfortable being in a classroom.
But architects are probably dealing with a more sheltered form of lifestyle, where you've got to be quite academic to get into a degree. Most likely you've come from a pretty good private school. So the people that you're dealing with are also very, very different. And most of the time when you go design for a house, the people you're designing for also have money. So you never really... seeing it from a wider lens, I feel.
I don't want to go too far down the architect builder thing, but maybe that's why it works though. Because maybe like if the same person existed as a builder and the same person existed as an architect, would that work? Like, maybe bringing their differences and personality together is actually what makes it work.
But the good ones do that.
Yeah.
So, anyway, after that, what happened after the business? Is this when you got involved in SBA?
No, I left quite suddenly, left the business, which wasn't something I was expecting at all. Just I guess that happens in business, particularly when you've got a business partner. If you're not aligned and not on the same page, then things will eventually come to a head. That was a pretty big lesson for me. Things have gone along pretty rosy for a long time, 5 years, and didn't probably make those check-ins to check that we were aligned on where we wanted to go when, had opportunities for funding and things like that. And that's where third-party influencers start to really question your motivation and what you're there for, and things sort of started to fall apart. I wasn't, I saw Archibiz as my future. That was everything I'd sort of hoped for and what I was focused on. And to walk away from that, I was kind of like, oh, okay, what am I going to do now? And I had spent a lot of time saying yes to opportunities in my life, which has presented me with some great things. And I said, okay, I'm not going to do that again. I'm actually going to stop and think, what is it that I really want to do? And for me, I knew it was focusing on addressing global warming and the role, all the skills I had developed over my career, how can I use these to actually address this big issue that we're all facing. And so I went and got some short-term work back in at Coles, putting in smart gates. Pretty intense project. And meanwhile, I was studying my Cert 4 in environmental sustainability management and starting to have conversations with people around how I made that transition into sustainability.
Yeah, okay. And then so your first job into sustainability was SBA?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. So I remember when Hamish was saying that they're going to start looking to hire someone full-time or part-time or come on and help. How did you come across this?
So I found the job on the Ethical Jobs website, and I think it was about to close the application.
It was literally like Bec. I mean, we can speak to this now. Literally, I think we'd almost made a decision.
Yeah.
And
On someone else?
Yep.
Oh, wow.
And then Bec came in, and I reckon within 30 seconds of watching her video, I'm like, decision made. And I think it was just unanimous across the board.
Wow.
Like last minute, and I was very, very Hamish, typical Hamish fashion, just like, she'll do, he'll do, fine, just hide, let's just move forward. And then next minute, Simon kept saying, no, we're going to run the process. And then yours came through, and we're just like, okay.
Thanks, Simon.
Thanks, Simon.
Yeah.
So you start, and when you first come into SBA, what were your thoughts? Like, were you...
Yeah, look, I guess my trepidation was around working for 6 or 7 at the time business owners, directors who all had their own businesses.
And run them completely different.
Yeah.
On paper, that makes no fucking sense.
No, it doesn't. It absolutely doesn't. So I was kind of like, oh, and what are the dynamics like between all of those guys as well? So for me, I was like, okay, this could be really interesting. But it's
like a TV show.
The opportunity was huge, and as soon as I read the job ad, I went, "Oh, this is it.
Yeah.
This is what
They
I
actually need help.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We definitely needed help. I actually think there was. I think I've talked about this before. There was a moment in one of our first planning meetings when Simon and I we're having a robust conversation across the table from each other, and I think you turned around and said, "Oh, is this going to be a problem?" And I think Simon and I looked at each other and went, "No, this is just what we do." Yeah. And I think I would like to think that that's a good example of the respect that exists between all the directors, and the fact that it's always been much bigger than the individual.
Yeah, I'm seeing from the outside, like, it's not personal. Like, you guys all want the same outcome.
Yeah.
And so you all have an opinion on how it can get there. And I'm assuming there's times that you've had to give up on something, Bec or Hamish, or like and you might think your idea is the best, but the other 6 people in the room disagree with you.
It's been one of the most humbling experiences that I've been in, because I've always been the master of my own destiny. And it's actually, it's made me be a better business person, because it's actually made me listen more.
Yeah. Yeah, look, I think, just to resolve that initial thought that I had and that trepidation, it was, the relationship that you all have with each other is really impressive and very, very respectful. And I think, particularly over the last 12 months, as evidenced by the planning day we had really recently, or the couple of planning days, you guys do an amazing job, and everyone respects, when a decision is made and it's time to move on, and is really comfortable voicing how they feel and what they want to see happen and that sort of thing.
So planning day, good introduction to my next question. What's the whole goal of SBA? And you shut up for a second, man.
No, I'm happy.
What does success look like?
Yeah, so it's a great question you asked, Matt, and it's really exciting to be able to share that we've got some great clarity around that. For us, it's around making net zero sustainable homes mainstream. That's the
So what does that mean?
Lofty goal.
For the average person, net zero, fancy word, it's like you see it everywhere. What does it mean?
It's producing more energy than it's using.
So
Correct.
why not just whack on a ton of solar and build the most inefficient house?
And this is the problem. There's not a huge amount of clarity around what a high performance home is, or what a net zero home is.
So this is what
passive house is very.
This is what I'm getting at. I'm from my perspective, I'm hoping you guys can set a definition so people go, that's it.
Yeah.
I feel we're pretty close, and I don't know how much we can talk about, like, the theory of change work that we've been doing.
Yeah, absolutely. We can talk about
But
that.
it's also marketing. I know we spoke off air about marketing and something you'll get to in a second, but you're kind of, the words that you decide to work with are very hard to pick, and because they can make up a whole, they can be quickly greenwashed, or they can be quickly overused, or it could be misinterpreted. Like, so you're at a point where you're defining the future, but you've kind of got to look 20 years ahead to.
Well, I think one of the things we discussed at the planning days was and I think I was pretty vocal about it, is we need to own these terms. Like Sustainable Builds Alliance, like needs to own the terms net zero home, or own the term, high performance home. Like we want to create a definition that everyone can then work to, because then it gives more clarity. Because everyone's putting building wrap on their homes now and putting a ventilated cavity and going and saying, oh, look at this high performance renovation that I'm doing.
You're now just building to code in Victoria.
Yeah, but this is what I'm saying. And I'm not saying that stuff is not good, but I guess one of my personal goals would be just to create some real clear definitions around what that actually means.
So in a perfect world, you guys don't exist in 20 years.
Yeah.
This actually was one of the things that came up in the planning meeting, that we just make ourselves redundant.
Yeah,
Need to pivot
the normal
careers
building
again.
alliance.
That's it. Yeah, I think, when you talk about, just putting a whole bunch of solar on the roof, yeah, sure, you can do that. But what's the home made of? Have you considered the material choices that you're making and the impact on biodiversity and health and all those sorts of things? Like, there's so many elements.
It's doing the
that
best
make it
you
up.
can, and that's what I've learned.
Yeah, but I think what we're trying to do is put some context around it. So we're using that roadmap that Jeremy's created, and then creating definitions around all of those different stages. And it is appliance choices, it is energy generation, it is mindful materials. I mean, I would really like to then push to what exists before that home that was there, because there was already something in this block where we're sitting right now, and then what happened to the material that was there?
Probably firewood. No, I know what happened to it.
Yeah.
It was actually this one here. We sent it off. They're filming it. They filmed a documentary. I don't even know if I've said this. Because I wasn't really allowed to. They filmed a documentary with the demolishing of the existing shed, and every material was taken away to be repurposed.
Great.
I don't know whatever happened to the documentary, but
this is the stuff that we want to encourage, because everyone kind of draws a line in the sand and says, all right, well, we're building, and everything from that point onwards we've got to be conscious about. But there is, and this is part of the reason why I think today's event that we're hosting is sold out and it's going to be such a success, is we have existing building stock there that also needs to be retained.
the building's already hard enough. Like, why worry about this stuff?
That's important. I think, circularity too is super important here in Australia, where less than 4% of materials are reused. In Europe, it's double that. So
I know that, and the EPA just increased tip fees to try to deter people, but that's just not solving the problem, because people just charge more for the disposal of goods.
So I touched on this term, these words, theory of change, before, Bec. Do you reckon you could maybe give a little
theory of everything,
a little bit of explanation around what the theory of change work that you and Jeremy have been doing? Because I know you guys have been spending a lot of time on it.
yeah, sure. So ultimately, it comes down to us recognising that there's 5 areas that we can make an impact. So the first one is around providing practical industry guidance, and that is probably what we do best through our roadmap to net zero sustainable homes that Jeremy Spencer's authored on our website. And there's lots of other things that we're tinkering around the edges there with. So, that roadmap still needs evolving work. Case studies are really important. It's how do we actually provide the way to get to net zero sustainable homes? What does that mean, and what are the steps to get there?
Have you been able to link up with, because you say case studies, like PhD candidates for universities to do studies and stuff and help? Is that what you're talking about with those type of case studies?
Well, we're really keen to get member case studies, so builders and architects, those practical. So at SBA, I guess one of the things that we pride ourselves on is being practical and making sure that we're not getting too academic. There is a place for all that research. It's super important, but for us, it's around what are people actually doing out there that, the average builder can take and implement into their own methodology.
Yeah.
So probably the second area that's important for us is developing education. So we are currently working with a TAFE around developing or co-developing a course that will hopefully be rolled out to a pilot later this year.
Is that old mate that we...
Yep.
Cool.
Yep. It was Troy.
Trent.
Trent.
Melbourne Polytechnic.
Yeah. So we met Trent last year, and I think
he was fantastic,
made the
actually.
connection. He was awesome.
Yeah. Trent is an amazing guy, yeah.
When someone cares instantly, they're not just doing this for the look at me, I'm...
No, he cares.
Yeah, you just instantly we just got introduced to him, and 5 minutes later we started the podcast, and then I think we had allocated half hour and was an
Talked
hour.
for like an hour. Yeah, he was and super passionate
Yeah,
as well,
yeah,
and
yeah.
understood where the gaps were
Yeah.
as
And
well.
being in government, politician
Yeah.
as well, so
Yeah.
he understands how to navigate the space. So
Yeah,
huge shout out to them.
Building workforce capacity is really important. So, it's one thing to be training up and making sure that we've got the professionals that can do these jobs, but we also need to make sure that homeowners can actually find the builder or the designer or the engineer or the energy assessor that they need that understands what a net zero sustainable home is.
That's a good topic because we already don't have enough people to be able to build. You've got to almost look at a 20 years ahead. 'Cause it's almost like you need to just scrap a whole generation and just start again with education on teaching people to build better. I feel because you've got so many older people, and and I'll say it, that they just, I've done it this way for so long, and they continue to teach someone that they then have that thought. Like, I know that I feel like sometimes you just got to skip a generation and just start fresh.
But that's not the real world, though.
I know.
Unfortunately,
I know.
It'd be nice to do that.
It comes down to government getting in. It's getting in at like the TAFE, Melbourne Polytech, at when they're doing their apprenticeship. So it is in front of them from the start.
Just digressing just slightly, creating this workforce to actually do the work, I think is one of I think one of the biggest reasons, if you are a builder out there, of becoming a member of SBA, because then you actually go on our register. So you can jump on, do all your badges, and the more badges you do, the higher you are up on the list.
That's right.
And when people are starting to, Google sustainable builders or even designers, we've got a lot of architects on as members now, you actually show up on that register. And we know for a fact that people are searching that register to look for builders that are aligned with the projects that they're doing. So
creating workforce, I reckon there's enough builders out there who know how to do it, and there's enough architects who know how to do it. I think the people is at the issue that we have the cost. Is people perceive this as a cost problem, and trying to educate a client that doing this extra piece or putting the extra internal membrane or this better material, they have this perceived idea it's expensive. And I think we spoke about this pre-recording that I think it's actually a marketing problem with people being able to sell these things to clients.
I think the cost piece is a challenging thing to try and unpack in a
I know, but you've got how
45
many builders you got going today, and how many people going to Dylan's?
Yeah,
there's an appetite for it from builders.
I agree with you. But I actually think that the cost is a global thing, not necessarily about a performance thing. I think that's just a problem that the building industry needs to solve, not performance construction.
No, I agree, but I think they get mixed up.
I agree, because people think building's already expensive. I don't want to go down that path because it's going to be more expensive. Like, the reality is building is just expensive.
Yeah, and
whether you're building a shit house or a good house.
Yeah, and there's that many builders out there that we know that are even trying to get into this space, they can't pick up a passive house or a high-performance job. They know how to do it. They're capable. Yeah. It's either being able to find the client or the designer to team up with, or...
Well, this is where the register...
That's, why we've got the Sustainable Building Directory. It's exactly for this point. It's to be able to match like-minded homeowners or clients with those designers, architects.
But how do you stop them just coming to Hamish and I all the time?
Well,
because that's... will be too busy.
Yeah, but but the thing is we...
No, I think okay, so I reckon let's just move on for a sec, because I know, I think it's a really good conversation, and I think it's probably something that we're just constantly going to be talking about and chipping away at, like the whole marketing piece and the sales piece, or
they're two different things. That's the other thing.
Education, workforce capacity. What else is that theory of change?
Strengthening industry alignment.
Yep.
So we have been actively at the SBA collaborating with other industry bodies out there. So, obviously Renew. You had Helen Oakey on the other week.
She's lovely.
Yeah, she's awesome. We're doing, having a lot more conversations with Renew, and particularly for us, we want to look at more ways that we can promote our members. So there'll be some exciting news coming up soon, hopefully around opportunities for our members with Renew and Sanctuary Magazine. Design Matters National, obviously supporting them with the True Zero Carbon Challenge. Architects Declare, where Jeremy and I are in conversations with MECLA, obviously the Passive House Association. It's been really exciting to be able to pick up some conversations with them as well.
It's been very exciting.
Of course, HIA and Master Builders as well.
What about the Architect Institute?
What about the architects?
How come they haven't got involved?
Do you know, I feel
They're doing work on it. They
Yeah.
are absolutely doing work on it. Yeah, we haven't got involved with having conversations with them yet, but we would welcome those sorts of
Do you
conversations.
do you feel that sometimes it's like, oh, that we're the little child, like that they like those type? I'm not saying this is them at all, but oh, that's cute. Like, look how big we are. Like,
do you know what
because I feel like you're now listened to. People now respect you.
I think we are now operating as a bigger organisation than what we are, which I think we need to be to have the impact that we're doing. And I'm happy to edit this out if it's not something that we can talk about. But we are a Sustainable Builders Alliance, and we have agonised around whether or not it is Sustainable Building Alliance, because I think the people that are coming today, I reckon there's probably more designers and architects coming to this event today than there are actual builders. You know, and there's 86 odd people that are there today, and I'd say a big group, a big constituent is designers and architects, and they're genuine. Like the feedback that we're getting from these designers and architects that are coming along, and it's the same people, and their circle's growing because they tell their friends, and then they come along. They're actually getting so much value out of what we're presenting that they're like, we need to see more of this because we're not getting it, you know, in these other like CPD stuff that we're doing.
Keep the name. Don't change it.
Well, it'll still be SBA, but it just might be building.
Just keep
it's
it.
3 letters.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, and look, it may or may not, and it may not be worth it. But I guess we just don't want the builder part of it to be a barrier, because we feel the information and the education and the stuff that we're doing is not just for builders. It's industry wide.
Yeah, I agree.
But likewise, we're striking that balance between then not upsetting builders that have supported us on this
Exactly.
journey.
But and you got one. So you got one more, because I've got the next question. Kind of is a good
Well, the
ties in.
obvious one is championing net zero sustainable homes. So really, unfortunately, we still do need to convince people why we need them, and we do need to correct or clarify misconceptions that are out there as well, and do the advocacy piece. So, yeah, that's really given us a lot of clarity around what it is we do. So when ideas come up now amongst the board, this becomes a guiding light for us to know.
It's like an anchor.
Yeah.
Do
we
you
move
know
forward with
who
it?
your market is? Because you talk about dropping the builders to building. What percentage do you have across the board? Do you know off the top of your head?
Yeah, builders are predominantly the audience that follows us, but there is a close following of architects and designers. And then, not surprisingly, homeowners. We do have
The home is like 10% more.
more. There would be more.
So
around.
builders are over 50%?
Yes.
Yeah,
builders are
okay.
over
Yep.
50%.
And there's obviously industry-based organisations as well
Yeah.
who follow on, and obviously our sponsors who we partner with.
Suppliers, I think,
Suppliers,
are,
yep.
and we recognise suppliers are really key, particularly in that industry collaboration piece, and that we can have an influence on how they behave as well.
Yep.
Well, they also have money that can help fund things like this, because it's not free.
Well,
And that's it. You need.
Look, I'm going to just give a shameless shout out here. Like, Sustainable Builders Alliance exists, and we can keep doing the great things that we do because of our amazing sponsors. So if you are a sponsor and want to, become a part of an amazing organisation, like get in contact. We've got gold and platinum sponsorship available. If you are a listener out there who wants to also become a partner, we are also up for that conversation. But yeah, that's just a cheeky plug from me.
No, but we'll get to that. I think if you wait to the podcast, we've got some stuff coming, but around that. But I think which these things, like even the podcast, it costs money to run.
Yep.
So, and this is on a small scale. You guys are on a lot bigger scale, and that's why I say, that's why you need government help. You need R&D money to be able to fund those sort of things. Like
There's things.
Yeah.
In the wheels in motion.
No,
hopefully,
but that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like if you
Yeah.
know someone that can get it in, just reach out. What's the worst
100%.
is that the conversation doesn't go anywhere.
We obviously the people that we're partnering with and the sponsors, there definitely is a massive alignment piece.
Have you said no to any sponsors?
We have very politely talked through the reasons why we may not.
Yeah, they
take
might
on
not
certain-
align.
Yeah.
That's what I mean.
There's an alignment piece.
Which is
important.
I was hoping you said that.
There's definitely an alignment.
Yeah,
piece,
because you
for
can't
sure.
have a steel frame company coming out. Let's build net zero.
No, I mean BP wanted to give us $1 million. We said no.
No, I think
But, you know, RACV, if you're out there, I know you guys are pretty big in the space. You've got plenty of money to throw around. Happy to have a
Or a
conversation.
bank
Bank Australia.
who are just making absolute shitloads of money right now.
Yeah. So anything else that's come out of that theory of change work?
Look, I think it's just around also language that we use as well, and really understanding what the problems are. What are the barriers? You know, we've done a lot of work unpacking, like what is stopping us from moving forward down this pathway.
What is? What's your biggest thing that you think is stopping everyone doing this right now?
Biggest thing is lack of education and incentives to educate.
Would education from a construction design side or from a client side?
From a construction design side, yeah.
So do you think clients are driving this more than construction industry are?
I think the evidence that we're starting to see come out, you know, a lot of reports are being published around the demand that homeowners, renters, buyers are pushing to, you know, they want to know answers, particularly around energy efficiency when they're making these decisions around homes. That's coming and that's pushing. It's pushing government change. It's why the federal government's got this mandate around net zero homes, and it's why we're seeing more demand. I think we need to be able to help architects and builders be able to respond to that and be able to, like you say, be able to market to it, be able to position themselves. And one of the biggest reasons for that is so that they understand the costs, and you can bridge that alignment with client expectations, particularly in times like now when there is a lot of uncertainty and, you know, you've got your plumbing supplier calling you up and saying there's a 30% price increase. There's never more been an important time to be able to have a conversation with your clients around cost and why things cost more.
The plumbing pipe isn't increasing the performance of your house as a cost. That's not the reason why.
No.
But
it all feeds into the same.
I have a theory on this. Is sometimes just not talking about it when you want to sell it and just doing it. Like, why do you just, like, if I'm an architect or a builder, just go do it and just be like, this is it, this is how we do things? Like, why do you need to educate them that you've put in a thicker wall with insulation, we're building airtight with mechanical ventilation? Why do they need to know that? Because you don't sit there showing them the engineering regs and the back end of the energy report or...
I think it's all of it, though. I think there's the education piece. There's that workforce capacity that you're talking about. I think it's coming from consumers, it's coming from government, then it's coming from builders and designers. Like, I think everyone's playing their role in solving the problem. It's not just one part of the puzzle that's like, that's going to fix it. No.
And like at the end of the day, sustainability is a puzzle, and it's a puzzle that's never ending, that you're never going to be able to put a whole piece together, because it's just unless you've got one of those things called a money tree, you're just not going to be able to hit every single item in the book.
I mean, I've definitely noticed a shift though, and again, I'm in a bubble that's growing. You know, I don't have to explain it.
Yeah, we don't talk about it, and I think that's what works.
Yeah,
I think and for anyone that's starting this journey, like, you get confused. I know we had James on, and we asked him recently, like, he was saying that he's struggling to sell building better. I'm like, sell us. And he just taught, like, and no offense to him, but he started talking about, like, you lose the client in the conversation, where you're better off just not talking about it and just explaining the level of comfort and the level of, like, better living that
don't get caught in the weeds.
Yeah.
Don't get caught in the weeds.
Yeah. The words comfort and cost.
But that's also now
I
overdone.
think
That's the hard part.
Being really, okay, if you think about where we're educating the workforce, so we're educating and then creating a workforce that has the capacity to do it, and then all of a sudden it doesn't become a selling piece, it just becomes an education piece to the client. Go, right, our walls are 140, we're insulating them really well, we've got this ventilation, and don't even give them an option.
Just don't tell them about it. Just be like, this is what it looks like. Are you happy? Sweet.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
I think personally, as a designer, you're not doing your job correctly if you don't make it healthy and comfortable, and you're not making it energy efficient. Because the issue that you have is that there's so many of these awards that are based on the pure aesthetics, and sustainability is one of the 10 criteria on there, where it shouldn't even be a criteria. It should just be part of the whole. That just should be normal.
Yeah,
I think we've got to think about too is the market that we're talking to. So it's all very well to talk to custom home builders, but we've got to recognise that a big part of the homes that are built by volume builders.
Yep.
And for them, it comes down to a cost
There are other
decision
challenges.
at the end of the day.
Yeah. And that's probably a really good example of, you not asking the client what they want and actually saying this is what you get for the money. But then I feel like our role, SBA's role, and we've been having conversations with Metricon, and they seem on the surface reasonably open to hearing about it. I think there'll be a slower uptake on it. But
Every cent counts for them, though. That's the reality.
But if you think if every single volume builder home in Australia actually built to 7 stars, like actually built to 7 stars and tested and verified, it would have a much bigger impact than you and I building 5 or 6 homes a year.
Oh, we're little fish.
Yeah.
Like that's, I think.
This is relevant, and by the time this podcast comes out, this report would have been released. But recently, SBA, you might have seen it on your social media. We did a bit of a campaign on a survey, answering a survey. So Bec, I'm going to let you talk about that because off the back of it came this really interesting state of the market report, which I read last night, but super interesting findings off the back of it.
Yeah, absolutely. So between Jan and March this year, we surveyed over 140 residential builders, and we were looking for patterns around what was happening in the market, particularly around high-performance builders. So we identified a group of high-performance builders, and that was around 30% of those that we surveyed. And one of the kind of factors was that they positioned their work as high performance. So they were talking about those things like comfort and energy efficiency and health when they sell and talk to clients. And we identified that of those high performance builders are nearly twice as likely to have work locked in more than 6 months ahead than other builders. So it's pretty interesting find.
I think what you're seeing there is you're seeing a shift in the market wanting it. And people who are spending money are going to those builders who are doing the thing.
The market definitely want it. I actually don't think there's an issue with the market. That's why I always go back to we need to differentiate sales and marketing. They're two different things, and you can market about it, but if you can't talk about it,
yeah, well,
it's confidence because it's like we faked it till we made it, and back then there was no. It was
still faking it.
No, but like the thing is, but back then it was like cool, like in the sense of we had nothing to lose. Now, if you want to fake it, the issue is there's so much information out there that you kind of can't fake it anymore because people are educated to an extent.
Yeah, which is amazing.
Yeah.
But this is what I was saying, so slightly digressing back, James, who we had on, who I reckon will
be fine,
come out before this episode. But I actually said to him, I think you've got this really amazing opportunity to actually take clients on a journey now because if you get on in front of your camera and tell people where you want to take your business and you get people along this journey for the next 6 to 12 months of, all right, this is where we're shifting our business and these are the things that we're going to do along the way. And then you jump on the camera again and say, right, today we did some pro-climate training and today I went to this factory over here to hear about HRVs, and you actually educate clients along your journey of you becoming more educated. And I reckon that's going to appeal to people.
Yeah, if you're a client,
because you're a human then, and you're learning. And if you've got someone over here who wants to get a builder on board who may or may not be a little bit cheaper, to come along on your journey as well, I think there's a huge opportunity there.
And you're going to make mistakes
vulnerable.
along the way.
Yeah,
like you're going to make big mistakes, but that's okay. That's how we've both made them.
Yeah.
We learn.
Well, let's just say, I would like to think the mistakes that people are making now are probably less because there's more education.
Yeah,
I think it gives you confidence too as a client that if this builder is investing in their education and investing in what they're doing, that they're probably a builder that's less likely to end up insolvent, which, let's face it, is a real risk now when people are shopping around for builders.
Yep. And we know from, I guess, conversations that aren't necessarily public facing of builders interstate wanting what we're doing in all other states.
Because you are very Melbourne based.
We are at the moment.
Yeah,
so there is a work in progress for chapters, but it's certainly something that we don't want to half-ass, and we can't because obviously we've been working really hard to establish a really good brand, and we want to make sure when we roll this out, it's right. There's proper governance around it.
I think there's a lot of learnings from the Passive House Association with the chapters.
Well, let's just say there's a lot of learnings from other organisations and not necessarily Passive House or whoever. Like, you just need to make sure that the people that you're engaging with state by state are reading from the same hymn book and rolling out the same information than from Sydney, Melbourne, Queensland, WA. It's all got to be uniform.
You've got the person in WA sorted.
We've got WA
We
sorted.
do have
yeah.
WA.
I reckon you got Tassie sorted.
Look, I'll be honest with you. I reckon we've got most states covered, and builders and designers engaged wanting to put their hand up and say we want to do it. The problem for us is
Probably just a call out to Queensland builders there.
They're always, but they're 30 years behind time. The Spice Girls just come out of Queensland.
Yeah, look, so I actually got a message from someone from Queensland today saying that he listens to our podcast, and like there is engaged builders there. So if you are in Queensland and you are interested in, maybe picking up a chapter position, it's not something that's happening next week, but I'd say over the next 6 to 12 months, we're going to have a framework around chapters, which then will allow us to do events like we're doing today that is completely sold out and rolling that out nationwide.
And the first step to that is building our membership, because we can't have chapters without a solid membership, and that's something that we're really focused on. We only launched membership in July last year.
How many members you got now?
We're hitting the 100 mark, I think.
Good job.
Yeah, we're two off, so it's pretty exciting.
All right, so let's double that.
Yep. All right, and we are going to have a discount code at the end of this podcast.
So there's a
that we're
discount
gonna
code
give
for
out.
signing up for members. So you have to listen to the end, and you got no choice.
Yeah.
If you don't sign up, we're going to boot you off. You're not going to get this podcast anymore.
Yeah, it's like a firewall to get access to the podcast episode. So state of the market report back.
Yeah, so I think when we did this, I guess personally I was sort of expecting that we would identify there was two groups. There was high-performing builders and there were other builders, and we were looking, okay, so what are the pain point differences for those two groups? What are the pipeline differences for those two groups? What was really interesting was we identified a third group, and that is transitioning builders. So those that are actually say that they're building above code in most of their projects, but what the difference was, what separated them from an actual high-performance builder was how they positioned themselves. So they weren't actually talking with potential clients around these things, around comfort and cost and health and the like. So we see that as a really big opportunity. You're part the way there, and that's where SBA can help. That's where we can get involved, and we can, we've got some amazing builders in our circle, like Matt, like Hamish, who are doing a great job of articulating what they do and why they do it and why it is important, and that we can help builders go on that journey to, at the end of the day, we want to have a sustainable building industry. I know probably not the best word to use, but
it's fine.
A healthy building industry, and that requires, builders that have got good pipelines.
And we're not perfect.
No.
At all. We're not, we make mistakes constantly.
But I think you and I and people in our circle are always what's the next thing? How can we get better than we were yesterday?
Do you have to be vulnerable first to admit that you're not doing? Do you have to admit I'm not doing a good job at this, and just be open about it?
100%.
Why hasn't anyone done a video on that and be like, I'm not building correctly, and just gone,
But
I need clients that need to help me build better?
Sorry to interrupt, but this is what I was saying, that James has that opportunity.
Yeah.
James is like, you know what? On self-reflection of the homes that I was building, even though I consider myself a good craftsperson, I want to now become better at building more healthy homes.
Being good at your craft and building better are two different things, by the way.
No, I agree.
Yeah.
No,
Just
I
so
agree.
people
Totally
understand
agree.
that.
Totally agree. What else has come out of that report?
Probably the biggest frustration that those transitioning builders reported was clients who didn't understand what things actually cost. And again, that goes back to that education
That's not
piece.
that's not a sustainability problem. I think that's every client in any situation.
I think the tricky part though, and I think you and I can talk to that because we've got the data and experience on projects. I personally feel it
I think that's on the builder.
and again, I'm going to use James as my avatar here, right? Mm-hmm. I'm sure he's not going to mind. James Turner, he's an SBA member. So we know what it costs to build a custom home, but we also know what it costs to put all these sustainable performance things on. And I would argue that a custom home and a sustainable or high performance home should cost the same.
All homes are expensive. Building's expensive.
This is
Building
what I'm
is for
saying.
rich people right now. Let's just why do we have to tiptoe around this conversation,
But
I feel?
we have the knowledge to back up with all the jobs that we've done and know what levers we can pull when we're trying to hit the markers of healthy, sustainable and affordable. Whereas someone who hasn't built a sustainable or a passive house before, they don't know what all those other things cost. And they don't know what the the trade-off of doing this or doing that is. They don't know how to use PHPP as an optimizing tool for cost and performance.
I think the thing is you've got TV shows like The Block that sit there showing how cheap a bathroom or kitchen is when they've been gifted all this free product, and now people and consumers have the idea
entertainment.
that
That's all it is.
But that's what they think a home cost.
It's
and
entertainment.
it's not fair on the homeowner to come into a building situation and go, I think this is what it should cost. That's not their job. That's not what they do every day.
Could you also have an opportunity right now, Matt, to say, because I know on your home, I think you were sitting over there when you're talking about the cost of your home, and then they edited out the bit with it, what this home actually would have cost.
So, and I've said this publicly. So, I was gifted a lot of free stuff. I also had it cost me $950,000.
Yeah.
That was my cost.
Yeah.
That doesn't include my time as a builder. My team became substantially cheaper because I could have them
Wholesale
at cost.
cost, yeah.
Wholesale cost.
So 1.6 to 1.8.
I also naturally had trades that looked after me because we'd done a lot of work and a good relationship. So they helped me. I didn't ask them to, but they did naturally. And then also had a lot of free stuff given to me. And then I have the ability to be creative during the design and optimize it because I know what is affordable. So there's an inherited cost come back that. This house would cost 1.6 to 1.8 minimum if I was to tell anyone what to build now. And most people understand that.
Yeah.
And I actually haven't had one person go, well, why can't you build that for me? Because I think we've got to give more credit to the average person that they understand what things cost these days. Our inquiries now, we're not getting crappy inquiries with shitty budgets. They actually understand the value of building. They just know they can't afford it. And that's a worldwide issue in any
we
building.
digress. We digress.
Yeah.
But I think
that's because you've positioned yourself that way.
Yes.
But I think I get really frustrated, and I could get in trouble here. I've said some dumb things before.
Is this the day Matt gets cancelled?
But we have all
to know
these
what you're
people
about to say.
saying, "Oh, I want to build for the lower income person, and we want to design for them." The reality is, they don't have the money. They can't afford to build. They don't pay the bills that like our overheads or the architect's overhead, and ultimately they don't put food on the table. What I'm getting at here is building is for rich people. We can't, and it shouldn't be this way. I'm not saying that's just the reality of where we are right now.
What is the one thing that you're most proud of?
You've read it. You've looked at my notes.
Most proud of that you've done for SBA?
Probably this week we got our social traders certification. Yes. So that's pretty big. It doesn't go to just anyone. And ultimately what that does is it recognises us as a social enterprise. And
It's a social enterprise.
A social enterprise is a organisation that is recognising people, planet, as well as profit.
That's
but
cool.
It recognises that ultimately we are serving the interests of our community above taking profit.
Yeah, there's a message in that. That's
And
cool.
if you correct me if I'm wrong, if you are a partner or a sponsor out there, your contribution is now completely tax deductible. Is that correct?
I need to correct you because that is wrong. We are not a not-for-profit.
Well, let's completely edit that bit out then.
Who cares? No, I think keep it in. Who cares? Like, who cares if it's not tax deductible? Like, you're doing it for the right reason. Like, you shouldn't be investing in something for
Not
tax
deductible yet.
Yeah, but
Correct.
You shouldn't be investing in something just because it's tax deductible. Like, that is
that's true.
accounting 101. So anyway, mindful moment, sponsored by MEGT, Australia's largest apprenticeship providers. So SBA, you need to become a member. All right, now we're lucky enough here. We talk about apprentices learning and people learning. There's so much information here, from webinars once a month. Is that right? Or quite often in-person events, online content, like podcasts, like honestly, like Sustainable Builders Yak with Brian and Simon. So there are so many resources, and to keep these going, ultimately SBA need money. So a membership is $600. Is that correct, Bec?
Correct, $600.
But we are doing a 15% discount off. Well, we are now the Mindful Builder as the promo code.
TMB15. There we go.
TMB.
I've just written that down. You better write that down, Bec.
TMB15.
We'll give you a 15% discount for becoming a member.
And the first 5 people to sign up will also get dinner with Hamish. So,
it's not entirely true.
It is at Warrandyte Pub.
I tell you what, as long as you come to the Warrandyte Pub and it's all on the same day.
So
before 6 p.m.
And so I'll even drive out if you get that. So
I don't believe that.
No, I don't. The Tesla will drive me out. But anyway, sign up because I think it's a great cause, and
It's not a cause.
it is.
It's a movement.
It's a movement.
Same thing,
I
isn't
mean,
it?
we're like a legit organisation now. I think
Yeah, you always have been.
We've moved. I think we've moved beyond a cause, which is the biggest reason why we moved from Builders Declare and rebranded, because that was a movement, that was a cause. Now we feel like the Sustainable Builders Alliance or SBA is like a legitimate
Association.
But
I think that you can. I think you can
We
still
say
be an
we can't say
association.
association yet.
Alliance.
Alliance.
But I think you can still be even an association, still have a cause.
Yeah.
So I think that you guys are doing an amazing job.
Beck's always the one that corrects me when I go.
So-
Thanks, Beck. You should just follow me around.
Hamish needs some media training. So we have architects,
my
clients,
charm, actually.
trade, builders, engineers, interior designers sign up. There's actually no excuse. It's honestly $600 to sign up. So please sign up.
It's cheaper with a 15% discount.
Yeah. So is
And
my
we are coming up to end of financial year.
Yeah.
So if you're looking for more deductions, now's the time.
I thought you said it wasn't tax deductible.
It's a work expense.
It's a work
Yeah,
expense.
I was being a smart ass. And if my maths is right, is that $60 off? So $540.
That would be 10%. It would be $75.
That's
Yeah.
that's correct. So yeah,
So this is why we need Beck to follow both
so
of us around.
520. Yeah, 520. Oh fuck me, $525 for a membership. So please sign up for this year.
Great. Awesome. Thank you so much for taking the time to come out today, Beck.
Thank you.
It's always good having a chat.
Thanks for having me, guys. It's
Thank
been
you.
great. Great to see your house, man.
Thank you very much.